Hey everyone, Tim Holtz and I'm here at Sizzix headquarters and I am excited to share some hauntingly new creativity coming your way from Sizzix. And the best part of this, it's available now. Get ready to see a whole new variety of fall and Halloween dyes. So check all this out. We've got some new side orders, which are really fun to use with your Sidekick or your Big Shot or Vagabond. 2 new alphabets, and these are hand-cut alphabets, and these are smaller than the Bigs XL. We've got a new shadow script, perfect for those haunting, creepy little invitations you want to make for your Halloween parties, or a treat bag. Some of my new favorite fall ones, this is a skeleton leaf in the new fall foliage, love this one, and a cool tangled twigs. Wait till you see this background in action, it's unbelievable. Then we've got laboratory, all these great little bottles with bubbles and corks. We've got this spooktacular, creepy little Dracula and skeleton and monster. The Halloween hangouts, which are kind of cute, and wait till you see what we can do with these. And then of course, mixed media, whether you're doing stencils or art journaling, you have that. The swirling stars that create positive and negative shapes, even little sprinkles for your confetti cards. These little monstrous faces, and these are going to do some cool things because they actually create a negative space. Where do you see these? And then one of my favorites, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for this, this is the Entomology framelit set that works with the Stampers Anonymous stamps. And of course, a steel rule die. This is Sinister, a very creepy skull. So now let's take a look at some of the amazing creativity. You ready for this? First, we're going to start with the side orders, and I just love these guys because just the whole scale of this, the fact that you can cut it out with your Sidekick, whether you're going to decorate treats for Halloween, just look at that, and pair that up with one of the rosettes. Look at these little monster faces, or gift tags, right? You want to do little gift tags for treat bags or anything like that. You can create those with, I love this, the whole scale of it. Now, if you're a card maker, hey, we've got you covered as well, because look at how many different designs you can incorporate on a card when you're using the side orders. And I love this, especially when we do different themes, right? We've done them all year long with Valentine and 4th of July, and we have Easter and birthday and travel and everything, but of course we needed to include fall and Halloween. So even if you want to make just a thanks card using any of these fall icons, or again, tags, maybe you're going to do some baked goods, you're going to a holiday dinner, look at that, or make a full-size card, right? You can still create this using any of our alphabets and word dyes and pair those up with those side orders. Just so many different ideas. Now, when it comes to fall, I have to say that I love leaves. I love the whole organic look of this. And this time I created one of my favorite dyes with Sizzix. This is skeleton leaves. And this was, I mean, I talked about this before. It's just amazing the amount of detail we were able to get out of a Thinlit die. Look at all of these different cutout lines and the different thickness and scale of this. And when you see how these leaves are really brought to life on these cards, unbelievable, because you can go with a very colorful palette if you want, so you can use this year round. But of course, you can also stay very traditional. And you can use this not only by keeping that skeleton leaf, but also layer it on a solid foundation. And you can really highlight these. Of course, pair that up with that Foundry 3D embossing folder, which is cool. Now, this I thought was also really brilliant. Take that skeleton leaf, but when you cut it out of just cardstock, you don't have to poke out all of those little openings. In fact, you can leave some of those pieces in to give a whole different look to that same die. So many creative ideas. Now this one, I know this is for the funky lovers. We love this funky florals that we did this year, but of course we have funky foliage, and it has, you can see, all these different leaves, and of course these great mushrooms, so fun and whimsical. And when you layer these, remember this die contains the shape and all the little pieces you need to layer right on top on the same die, which is very cool. But take a look how we can create this, like in this shadow box right here, right? We can take this and take a vignette box from Ideology, pair up all those little dies inside, and make a great decor piece or a gift for someone. Or if you just want to create a card, there again, look at how those colors just pop on that background. We've got that wood grain background again, using the Alphanumeric die to create your own sentiment for a thank you. I just love how fun and funky these pieces are. Very, very cool. So we're going to get a little bit more into Halloween. Are we ready? Of course, we always need some treat bags because, well, I'm a trick-or-treater, and although this bag is not big enough for all my treats, it's certainly good for a Halloween party. What I love about this bag, it's different than the gift card bag because, as you can see, it is a gusseted bag. So it allows us to put little candies and treats inside, but more importantly, it comes with an alphabet. It comes with a die set that you can go in and you can cut out all of your different messages or sayings in that bag. And you can pair this up with a lot of these other dies that I'm going to share a little bit later and really create some fun treat bags. I love that. Whether you're a stamper, whether you're an inker, whether you want to include those and incorporate them with different art supplies that you have, that's what makes just kind of a three-dimensional surface or substrate that we have really pop, because you can incorporate it with anything that you have. Take a look at this. Of course, we're going to bring back that little side order and include that rosette. You can use those anywhere. I love this little treat bag. Very, very cool. Now this one, it's kind of buried at the bottom, but I want to share it with you because I thought this was really clever, right? You can take that treat bag and let's say you have some of those bigger dies, right? This is that witch that we did. She's fantastic. But take a look at using that large die on that treat bag and just crop it in the corner. So keep that in mind to go back into some of your older, more favorite dies and still incorporate that with something new. Now this, we talked about the alphabet. I love alphabet dies, but look how fun you can create personalized cards like this whole Tomb Sweet Tomb, using that cutout upper and lower case, pairing it up with that steel rule frame, of course the Raven from previous year collection. I love the fact of mixing old with new. I think that's what's always important with Sizzix, is that you can count on the fact that when I release some new dies, they're always going to really complement some of the older dies that we've released. Look at this one. We can use the negative. Remember, the whole idea when it comes to alphanumeric is it gives you the ability to place these letters anywhere you want. So you can not only use the positive of the letter, but we can also cut that out of a stamped background and use that negative. And of course, layering it on that embossing powder, really, really fun. Now we're going to get a little, I don't know, a little dimensional here. I think it's really important whenever you're making anything that you try different layers and depth when it comes to your project. So here, this is using that Halloween hangout die. And what that does is that cuts out that opening space, but it allows our shape to kind of hang out in this window. It's connected down here. So you can see here that it's layered onto this card. It's also paired with our Halloween mixed media. So there again, we've cut through another inky layer. And then we've used foam to really dimensionalize that cutout. Just use the Sizzix adhesive foam and you can just pop those up. And I think it gives a card so much more depth by creating those highs and lows yourself by pairing up different dies that you wouldn't think want to go together. Now look at this one. There again, including a lot of different kind of dies. Here we have that cutout. That's what makes this font so fun, is it really looks hand cut. So we've created that, make that little saying in the background. Take a look at this, right? These are those skeleton leaves, but this is cut out of tissue. This is a tissue paper that really allows you to create just some light leaves. You can also try this with vellum, right, where we can ink vellum and you can heat this up and layer this, and of course pair that up with a little funky. So you can really, sky's the limit of how you want to mix and match your dies. That's what's fun. Now this, of course, you know, love word dies, especially when it comes to shadow script. So let me just show you this one. Again, the shadow script for Halloween, it's that same shadow script that we released earlier this year, where it gives you the ability to use those word dies in different ways. We've got that inside part, of course, that we can just use that word. We can just use the shadow if you just want to have that thick area for the shadow. We can put both of those through the machine at the same time and actually create that outline. That's pretty cool. Or of course, we can just stack those. That gives us a whole different look. Offset that. That gives us a drop shadow. Or of course, nest those together and it gives you more of a layered look. So much fun. But when you put those on projects, it really gives you the ability to mix and match so many different ways. This is the gift card bag that we did. So that's that thinner bag that allows you to put a little gift card or some money in there. We've paired that up and we're able to incorporate pattern paper with our word because we have that solid outline. That's what makes shadow script so fun. And of course, pairing it up with one of those new little side orders. So cool. Look at this one, right? Still just as fun, making another one of those little bags where we paired that up. And this time, we actually did the black, that solid part, as the script word, and we created a really colorful background. So if you're an inker or you like to do a lot of mixed media backgrounds, don't forget, take those backgrounds and die cut them. So much fun. And of course, cards, right? So great to use all these different dies and you can layer them. And because of that shadow script, we can cut words out of different colors, pop it up onto that drop shadow, and even of course layer that with the adhesive foam, which makes it really nice and dimensional on your card. And there's one of those Halloween hangouts. But take a look at this. I'm going to kind of tip it just slight so you can see that even though you have your hangout that's usually flat, you can also cut it a second time and 3D it. You can layer it on that hangout space for just some added depth. And of course, incorporate it with your favorite stamps or pattern paper, and it's cool. Now, if you just like words, because you just have so much to say, like I do, you can incorporate, of course, our shadow script, but you can also use your alphanumeric and you can mix and match your fonts. How cool is this? Now, this is a big card. I think this would be great to create a banner, right? Create several of these and just hang it for your Halloween party. Just makes it really fun to add those little side order shapes to it as well. Isn't that great? I love all these ideas of just kind of mixing and matching everything where you don't have to worry about sticking with one thing. That's good for me. Now this, I gotta tell you, this made a lot of people happy, and I have to do a huge shout out to Sizzix because wait until you see the detail of this. This is a framelit set for Entomology. This coordinates with a stamp set from Stampers Anonymous. What's so amazing about this though, if you really take a look, is every little leg and antenna and everything of that image is cut out in the die. Unbelievable detail. So all of these little insects and all that great detail, we can now cut that out without doing any fussy cutting with scissors because the die is going to do it and it cuts it right to the edge. Now, how do you use those on a project? Maybe it's a little creepy. Well, maybe it is. That's what I like. So here we can take that, incorporate one of those on the new little treat bag. So we've got a spooky little bag with that little insect, but it can also be very artsy and artistic. And I like the fact that we can just create that just on a background card, right? If you want to take just some dictionary paper or just something like that and just make a very cool botanical organic card, I think that's great. Or if you want to mix it with metallics, look how we can dress up that insect. It gives it a very, very cool look where we can pair it up and layer it with. Take a look at that funky foliage. That's that same colorful stuff I showed you earlier, but cutting it out of black cardstock, using some embossing powder with it, wow. That really makes it pretty cool, I think. I love that. Now we're going to go a little bit whimsical with these hangouts because when you see what these hangouts can do, I think that's what makes them so fun because it gives us the ability to really focus on that shape, that little piece that is hanging out there. There's our owl. You can see here that pumpkin, just making little tags. Again, these can go on trick-or-treat bags. There you can see that hangout with that gift card bag. So pair these up with your other dies because it's just going to add a whole nother window, but we've got that shape hanging out in there. Look at this one with that metallic cardstock, right? We get that great reflection on there. I love having that hangout shape. Pattern paper, I mean, that's what makes having a bold shape sometimes really nice because as long as the design is very bold, you can really use anything you want from pattern paper to metallics to anything. Now take a look at this card. I thought this was really clever by taking several of the hangouts, using those as really our background, pairing it up again with those alphanumerics where we can spell out a word, and then just putting them over a cool inked background. I think that really makes for an easy card. And then we've got this one. Now, I don't want to drive the camera crazy, but this is a shaker card. So if you look back here, there's little cutouts, little pieces of little bats that float in this window. And that's another great thing for these hangout dies. They're perfect for shaker cards because it already creates a window. We've got some great design over the top, but of course, if you pair this up with a background, then you can make a little shaker card. How fun is that? Love it. All right, now we're going to start getting a little bit creepier as we go along, which, hey, for me is perfect. Take a look at this. When we start incorporating a lot of different things like, of course, our mixed media background, and then we've got this ghoulish. Now, you're going to see some really cool things done with this die set, but there again, it's showing you how you can take a lot of different dies and pair them together to make cards, favors, invitations, anything for Halloween. And that's what makes it really unique. Now, of course, for me, I'm all about apothecary. That's what I love at Halloween time, or all the little elixirs and potions and bubbles and the mad scientist in me. But I love this laboratory die set because we have all these great little bottles. Now, each of these bottle dies have a coordinating kind of inside piece. This piece that we can cut out and layer, this allows us to give some different colors. Now there's little bubble dies in there, and look at these little corks, right? That's also part of the die set. So you can cut that out of your favorite cork paper and you can cork up that little bottle or have some of it spilling out, which is great. Now, of course, pair it up on your favorite texture fade or embossing folder. You got an easy card, or this could be something frameable. Just use it as your Halloween decor. That's what I would do with most of these, quite honestly. Of course, here, you can just go in and make something very simple. Use your stamps, use rub-ons, print something out on the computer. But what this card features is actually taking this inside that we layered here. You see this little piece here that we've layered? Those pieces also have the ability to set inside that die at the same time and cut out a window. So technically, you can make each of these little bottles into its own little shaker bottle because we can cut out a window in every single one of those bottles. Unbelievable detail. Now this, he's creepy. I love him. This, of course, is pairing up with a rubber stamp. So take your favorite image, your favorite stamped image, collage, any ephemera that you have, and of course, don't forget to incorporate your dies. You know, in the world of die cutting, I love to use a lot of dies, but I also love to use my dies with other things that I have because I think you just get more and you can give your project so much different depth and dimension by using imagery, of course, some of your favorite embellishments like the skull and crossbones, and then really make a cool card or a cool project. But look at how great those little bottles are. And you see these little labels? That label is also part of the die set. There are so many dies in that laboratory set. You're going to have fun. I see this way beyond Halloween. I see love potions and all sorts of crazy creative elixirs out there. Now this one's really fun because this is Swirling Star, so I want to talk a little bit about this, and I'll just hold up these pieces of paper just so you can see that These dies, there's a lot of different styles to them. One, of course, is this swirl. And what it does is it cuts out this negative space. But of course, keep in mind that all those little stars that come out, that's going to allow you to use those for confetti for a shaker card or for decor. We've got this little kind of swooshing star right there. You can see that. And then it also has some larger stars that you can use for big windows and kind of accent pieces. And here's how it is on a card, and that's what I wanted to share with you. That this one is just, of course, that swirl is cut out on black cardstock, but then it's layered over glitter paper. So we get that little sparkle behind it. So keep that in mind. Anything that you want to layer these on, those negative space dies where you think, when would I use those? Pair it up with your favorite background or texture, and you've got yourself a very cool card. Like, look at how that swoosh just really pops there. Here's an inked background. We've got that purple inked background using a little bit of distress oxide, but of course it's layered on yellow cardstock. That's what's popping through. So by having that negative, you don't have to painstakingly go in and try to glue all those little stars down. Could you imagine? So sometimes your negative dies are really going to be a favorite. Of course, pairing it up with that laboratory, because the bottles come in different sizes. So we've got large and small, but I love seeing those bubbles, and that just becomes our focal point for our Halloween card or elixirs. All right, now we get a little spooky here, right? We've got some monster faces. Maybe it's gonna remind you of some kind of whimsical nightmares. Nothing to be too frightened about. But what's great about this, of course, is it cuts out that little face that hangs out in your card. So all of those pieces, the little eyeballs, the teeth, all that, that's sitting in your cardstock. So when you cut through this, it's really showing the background. So you can pair this up over glow-in-the-dark paint, or again, any of your glitter paper. Here we paired this up with the words, and we've included a lot of different faces on this. This makes for a fun card. But look what happens if we just add a little bit of that Sizzix foam, right? We add that foam adhesive sheet to the outer part of our card, raise it a little bit, and look at that. How we just added that little bit of dimension on those faces paired up over that colorful background. And then of course, always pair it up with your alphabets as well. Now, if you want to add a little bit of whimsy, right? They don't have to be scary. Add some little googly eyes to that, and that makes it really fun. Pairing it up, I think the kids will like making these because it's really a great silly way that they can do trick-or-treat bags, or of course things for a Halloween party, right? Takes the scare out of it. Now if you have some of the original dies, if you remember this pumpkin die that we did, I think it was a year ago, and what's nice about this is any of your older dies that have that bigger shape, pair that up, right? These faces can drop into any shape that you have, and you can just totally transform this. These were just simply pumpkin dies that we did for fall, but of course now we made them silly jack-o'-lanterns just by adding in those faces, which is great. Now, if you want a home decor idea, check out these votives. And what's nice about these votives is you have a lot of different ways that you can use them. We can do a wraparound by simply cutting out that face out of cardstock, wrapping it around a votive, and you can see when the lights dim that they really come to life. You can also use the negative space, that face, and adhere it inside the glass votive, and that's going to give you a great little shadow. Or of course, if you still want that negative space, you can adhere the entire sheet. And for that, we just use a Sizzix adhesive sheet, put it on our cardstock first, cut out that face, and simply stuck it inside the glass votive. So a really great way to accent your home for Halloween. Now, of course, let's get into this. This is really, really cool. I love the idea of using this tangled twigs, and it creates a really unique background, especially if you're going to pair it up with Entomology. I think that's really interesting because we've got this background, and there again, that die cut is going to really frame our work, and we can layer it over ink or texture or anything we have here. Then we've got this guy. Love this. I love where we can just see kind of those twigs in the background, and we pair it up with that frame and that raven, and of course a stamped image. So let me share something really cool about this particular die, this tangled twigs. What it is a die that actually cuts out those twigs, but it doesn't have an outer blade, right? So because it doesn't have an outer blade, you can actually create a repeat pattern, right? You can simply line this up, cut it out, take that next die, make sure that that edge goes right over that negative space, and cut it again. So you can pair it up vertically, horizontally. You can make as big of a background as you want. Or of course on the cards, and I'll go back to these, you get to determine whether you want a wider border or whether you want a narrow border on your card, because it doesn't cut the outer edge. That's what's really cool about tangled twigs when we're working with that. Now we're going to get a little Sinister. If you are a fan of steel rule dies, you are going to love this. This is Sinister. He is a creepy skull, but what's great is not only is he a little scary, he's also kind of fun because, as you can see, the technology of steel rule die, we can cut thicker things like chipboard, you can cut fabric, you can cut foam and make some cool foam stamps. But I love the detail of just his separate jaw and his kind of creepy little teeth. So if you have someone that even loves like pirates or treasure hunting, that's also really cool. And look at the dimension and detail of a steel wool die. Man, you got to give a shout out to Sizzix, because we continue to push the technology of making just something that's normally very simple in a steel rule, all these great little details and bends. And that's what makes bringing these dies to market so exciting as a designer, because we take a shape and we're like, you know what? We want to have so much detail that we can cut thick things out of it for great decor pieces. That's really the benefit of a steel wool die. Now, if you want to see something that I think really kind of brings Halloween together, it's all these creepy monsters. But when I show you these samples, it's just kind of mind-blowing, because we can take something that is normally done for a card and we can also mix it up into home decor. So take a look at these guys. I'll first start with the cards here. And just to show you that, what's great about this ghoulish, of course, is they're a great focal point on their own. You can pair it with one of those drip dies, one of my favorites that we've done in previous releases, of course, do a fun, whimsical word. If you want to take your monster, of course, use mixed media in the background. There's that drip again, but this time we cut a word out of that drip, because the drip is an edge, so it allows you to create as much space as you want. Or, of course, you can do something just a little darker, a little fun over like an alcohol inked background and still go in and use some of that mixed media. Really fun to actually add these dies and create cards. Whether they're going to be kind of fun over here, this little monster guy, he's fun, bright colored cardstock, or we've got this guy that I'll bring in where we can pair these together, because of course they have that same shape that we can actually use both of those monsters, and then we can even pair that little vampire in the background. He's pretty cool. I like that. Now you can see here this vintage script, that Fright. Love how we can always pair these designs together, which makes it really cool. So if you're looking for a great home decor idea, check this out. This is using an Ideology vignette tray and filling it up with so many different dies, whether we're using, look at that pipeline, that's one of my favorite steel rule dies, and of course pairing it up with these monsters, and each one is a scene. You can see the background using that 3D embossing folder, and every single one just has so much different character, especially when you're kind of creating its own vignette. Of course, using that village roof tile where you can go and turn this into your own little haunted house. I just think the detail of a project like this, when you think of die cuts, can be more than just a card or more than just a party favor. It can be home decor. Now, if you're into some miniatures, you got to check this one out. I want to bring this one in and I'll just hold it here. What's cool about this is creating a scene, but the dies are cutting shrink plastic, right? So we took a bunch of different shrink plastic, cut it out of our shapes, and unbelievable detail, especially when you're using a Thinlit with shrink plastic, and even including that village graveyard, a die that we did last year where you can create your own little scene, but of course miniaturized by cutting it out of shrink plastic and pairing it up with a vignette box and framing it up. So as you can see, there are so many spooktacular creative ideas ready for you to just create from Sizzix.